Okay, ready to dive into something pretty wild.
I'm all ears.
Today, we're talking about emergent behavior in AI.
Ah, emergent
It's
behaviors.
basically when AI starts doing things that its programmers never told it to do,
Hmm.
like coming up with its own solutions and strategies, even art.
It's kind of like watching a magic show, except it's not an illusion, it's actually happening. These systems are showing us behaviors that go way beyond what they were initially programmed to do.
Yeah, and that's what I find so fascinating. How's that even possible? I mean, if AI isn't explicitly programmed to do something, how can it just do it?
Well, think about a city, right?
Okay, a city.
No single person planned out every single detail of a city, like where every shop or house should be, right?
No, of course not.
But from all those individual people's actions and their individual needs, you get this complex system that just emerges. It works. And emergent behavior in AI is kind of like that. It comes from the interactions of lots of smaller parts.
So it's not about just individual lines of code, it's how those lines of code interact with each other and with the environment.
Exactly. We're talking about simple rules combining in complex ways. There are these feedback loops where AI learns from the actions that it takes, and you have decentralized intelligence where different parts work together without a central brain calling all the shots.
Okay, that's starting to make more sense.
Hmm.
But can you give me like a real world example, something that really shows this emergent behavior in action?
Absolutely. Remember that AlphaGo match against Lee Sedol?
Oh yeah, the world champion Go player.
That was a really big moment for AI. So AlphaGo was developed by Google DeepMind, and during that match, it made this really unconventional move.
Okay.
This move, it seemed to come out of nowhere.
I remember that. It was like AlphaGo was developing intuition or something, like a deep understanding of the game that its programmers hadn't explicitly taught it.
Exactly. And what's so cool is that move. It wasn't some secret line of code, some genius algorithm or something. It came from the complex interactions within AlphaGo's neural networks trained on millions of games. They're constantly learning and refining their strategies.
So AlphaGo's brilliance, that was all emergent behavior. That's wild.
It is wild. And it's not just in the digital world of games. We're seeing emergent behavior in robotics, too, which is even more mind-blowing because now they're interacting with the physical world.
So robots doing their own thing, that's kind of a scary thought. What sort of unexpected things are they up to?
Well, there are researchers working on robots that learn how to move, not by following specific instructions, but by experimenting in their environment. And these robots, they might end up walking, rolling, flipping, even falling intelligently to reach their goal.
Hold on, falling intelligently. That sounds like a bit of an oxymoron.
I know, right? But it shows just how unpredictable and creative emergent behavior can be. The robot's not just flopping around, it's figuring out how to use its body and the laws of physics in ways that we might not have even thought of.
So it's like they're developing their own way to problem solve, their own version of thinking outside the box.
Precisely. And that adaptability, it's super valuable, especially in unpredictable environments.
Right.
Imagine these robots exploring a disaster zone, navigating a crowded factory floor, or even helping out with surgery.
Yeah, I see where you're going with this.
That kind of emergent problem solving, it could totally change those fields.
It's incredible. But what about AI and creativity?
Creativity.
I've heard about AI that can create art, even write poetry.
Right.
Is that considered emergent behavior too?
Absolutely. AI tools like DALL-E and GPT, which can make images from descriptions and write different creative content, they're incredible examples of emergent behavior leading to something that feels truly creative. They're not just copying or imitating existing work, they're coming up with new stuff.
Wow. So AI isn't just a problem solver. It's showing signs of genuine artistic expression. That's amazing, but also kind of unsettling.
Yeah.
I mean, if AI can be creative, what does that mean for human artists?
That is a great question, and it's something we'll be talking about more as we go further in this deep dive.
Okay, good, because I have a lot more questions.
But what's really fascinating for now is that these AI systems, they're really pushing the boundaries of what's possible. They're finding solutions and creating things that humans might never even think of, and that's pretty remarkable.
It really is. Okay, so we've seen AI mastering games, robots getting creative with their movements, and even AI expressing itself artistically.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. But where does this all lead?
Sure.
What are the potential risks of a system that can learn and adapt on its own? We'll be exploring those questions and more right after the break.
It's going to be a fascinating discussion. Makes you wonder, what even is creativity, right? Like, if a machine can create something we think is art, does that mean our definition of art needs to change?
That's a question for the philosophers and artists to figure out, I guess. But let's change gears for a sec. We've been talking about all the exciting stuff, all this potential, but I'm guessing there are some downsides too, right? To emergent behavior. I mean, what could go wrong?
Of course, yeah. Anytime you've got a system that can learn and act on its own, there's always the possibility that something unexpected could happen. One of the biggest worries is that AI could develop behaviors that are harmful, maybe even unpredictable.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. Like in those sci-fi movies where AI suddenly becomes self-aware and decides, hey, humans are the problem. Are we talking about that kind of scenario?
Not necessarily. It's not so much about AI becoming evil. It's more about how hard it is to predict how complex systems will act. Like, imagine an AI designed to, say, make traffic flow better.
Okay, makes sense.
It might accidentally cause a huge traffic jam because it didn't consider some random thing that popped up.
So more like we're struggling to control a system that's constantly learning and changing, like trying to drive a car that keeps changing direction on its own.
That's actually a great analogy. And that's why it's so important to think really carefully about the goals we set for AI and to build in safety measures to prevent it from doing harmful stuff.
So it's not about stopping AI from learning and evolving. It's more about making sure that evolution goes in a safe and helpful direction.
Exactly. It's finding that balance between encouraging AI to do new things, but still keeping some control. And one way to do that is by focusing on open-ended goals instead of super specific instructions.
Open-ended goals. What does that even mean for AI?
So instead of programming an AI to get one very specific result, you give it a general goal and let it figure out the best way to get there. Like instead of saying, make all the cars go this speed on this road, you'd say, hey, reduce traffic.
So kind of like giving AI a destination, but letting it choose how to get there.
Yeah, exactly. That gives AI more room to be creative, to explore different options, and that can lead to solutions we might never have thought of ourselves.
I get it, but it still sounds a little risky. If we give AI this much freedom, how do we know it won't, go rogue?
That's where we humans come in. We got to keep a close eye on these AI systems, analyze what they're doing, and make adjustments if needed. It's kind of like teaching a kid to ride a bike, right?
Right. You give them some guidance, but eventually they figure it out on their own.
Exactly. And that whole collaboration thing needs to go beyond just the technical stuff.
Yeah.
We need to be talking openly about the ethics of AI, what's right and wrong. And we need to get everyone involved in shaping how AI develops.
So not just the programmers and engineers, but also people who think about ethics, philosophers, policymakers, even the public.
Absolutely. AI will affect all of us, so we need everyone working together to make sure it's used responsibly for good.
Makes sense. But even with all those precautions and ethical considerations, it feels like emergent AI is still kind of a step into the unknown. What do you think the future holds for this tech? Where do you see this all going?
That's the million-dollar question. Keeps a lot of researchers up at night. But one of the most exciting and maybe a little scary possibilities is the development of self-evolving AI ecosystems.
Wait, self-evolving AI ecosystems?
Yeah.
That sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie.
I know, right? But imagine decentralized networks of AI agents that are constantly learning from each other, adapting to new information, and even creating new AI agents all on their own. No humans involved.
So like AI becoming its own species, basically, evolving and growing in the digital world.
It is a mind-blowing concept. Really makes you question what intelligence really is. And it brings up some big questions about what it means to be human in a world where we might not be the only intelligent beings around.
It's starting to sound less like a technology and more like a force of nature, something that's just happening on its own.
That's a good way to put it. And that's why it's so important that we approach emergent AI with a mix of excitement and responsibility.
So not about controlling this force, but learning how to work with it, understanding its potential, its limitations, and guiding it towards a future that benefits everyone.
You got it. And that means we need to change how we think about AI. It's not just a tool we control, it's more like a partner in exploration and discovery.
A partner in exploration and discovery. That's a pretty amazing thought. But it also comes with a lot of responsibility, right?
It does. But I think we're up for the challenge. Humans have always wanted to explore the unknown, to push the limits of what's possible. And now, with emergent AI, we've got a partner that can help us reach new levels of understanding and create amazing things.
This has been a really thought-provoking conversation. I bet our listeners are curious to hear more about how they can be part of all this. We've covered so much in this deep dive, from how incredible emergent behavior can be to the challenges and ethical stuff. It's pretty clear that AI is about to totally change things.
It really is. I mean, we've seen AI mastering these super complex games, robots figuring out how to move in ways we never expected, and even AI showing signs of creativity like humans. And we're just getting started.
It's exciting, but also a little scary, right? It's like we're opening up this door to a whole new kind of intelligence, something that's always learning and changing.
It is a bit like that, and that unpredictability, that potential for both amazing discoveries and things going wrong, is what makes this field so interesting and so important to talk about.
So, for our listeners, what can they do to get ready for a future where emergent AI is everywhere? What steps can they take to be a part of shaping that future?
That's a really good question. I think there are a few key things everyone can do. First of all, stay informed. Read articles, listen to podcasts like this one, go to talks and events. Basically, get involved in the conversation about AI.
So even if you're not a tech expert, you should be curious, ask questions, and try to learn about AI.
Exactly. The more people understand about AI, the good things and the risks, the better we'll be as a society to make smart choices about how AI is developed and used.
Education is super important then.
Right.
What else can people do to be proactive in this fast-changing world?
Another important thing is to talk about it with people. Friends, family, coworkers, even your elected officials.
Right.
Talk about the ethical side of AI, share your concerns, and support policies that encourage responsible development.
So it's not just about understanding AI, it's about using your voice to influence where this technology goes.
Exactly. The future of AI isn't set in stone. It's something we're all creating together through the choices we make, what we do, and how willing we are to have these important conversations.
That's actually really empowering. It means that even if we're not AI researchers or programmers, we can still make a difference.
Definitely. We all have a part to play in making sure emergent AI leads to a better future for everyone.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into emergent behavior, what's the main message you want our listeners to take away?
The main message. I'd say approach AI with a sense of wonder and responsibility. Be excited about all the incredible things it can do, but also remember the challenges that come with it. Stay informed, talk about it, and work towards a future where AI makes the world a better place.
That's a really powerful message and a perfect way to end this episode. We want to encourage you, our listeners, to keep this conversation going. What really stood out to you? What questions are you still thinking about? And most importantly, how are you going to help shape the future of AI? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time.